Update 36 is live, and in this video I'm gonna go through all the new changes. Update 36 brings a new story that begins in a renewed King's Gondor. After the defeat of Sauron, King Elessar and Queen Arwen seek to bring peace to their kingdom, but the danger is not gone and new foes seek to threaten Gondor. Adventure awaits in the new zone of King's Gondor East, set after the War of the Ring, when fresh breezes have dispersed the fumes of the dawnless day and allowed the sun to shine again. Discover the beginning of a new epic-style storyline, The Song of Waves and Wind, and team up with Legolas, Gimli, and friends both old and new to investigate the continuing threat of the heirs of Castamere. With this update, we're getting the brand new storyline, a new epic-style storyline, The Song of Waves and Wind. A new story debuts with Gondor Renewed called The Song of Waves and Wind, for characters at level 140. Start the first chapter by speaking to Glyndor in Minas Tirith Midsummer. So when you log in as a player, you're gonna get mail from Glyndor, as you can see in my mailbox, from Glyndor, Herald of the King. He sends you a mail where he tells you that Aragorn needs to see you, and Gwyndor will be waiting for you outside the stables in Minas Tirith Midsummer. So when you get to Midsummer Minas Tirith, you can see that Glyndor is waiting for you, King Elessar's Herald, and he's ready to start the chapter 1.1 of A King Should See His Kingdom. So this is basically a new type of epic story, kind of like the Black Book of Mordor, and this story is available to anyone who is VIP, or if you purchase the Gondor Renewed quest pack, or if you purchase any quest packs in the future that relate to this storyline. One of the biggest features with this update is King's Gondor. King's Gondor awaits. Gone are the gloomy dark skies, replaced with bright and sunny fields and hills. Players familiar with the original Central and Eastern Gondor regions will be familiar with King's Gondor from a navigation standpoint, but there are new additions, and places players previously could not go are now open to allow for further exploration. The quest pack Gondor Renewed unlocks more than 80 quests and deeds for level 140 characters, includes King's Gondor East and the Song of Waves and Wind, free to VIPs. So basically, if you're VIP, you don't have to do anything, you will automatically have access to the Song of Waves and Wind, and you'll also have access to the quest pack in King's Gondor. If, however, you're not VIP, you will have to purchase the Gondor Renewed quest pack in order to get the epic story and all the new quests in the new zones. Now the question is, how do you get to King's Gondor? Currently I am in Minas Tirith Midsummer. This is not where I need to be. Go to Minas Tirith after battle and head south through the Pelennor fields. Now there's an easy way to get to after battle now. If you're in Minas Tirith Midsummer like I am, you can see Glyndor is here waiting for me. There's literally a stable master right next to you here, where you very easily can just go to Anorian after battle, Minas Tirith, and you just travel, and boom, you're in Minas Tirith after battle. Once you get to Minas Tirith after battle, you open your map, and the way to enter King's Gondor is to head south, follow this road, southwest through the Pelennor fields, and enter through the gate down here by Harlond. As you can see, I've now arrived at the gates of Harlond, and as soon as you enter through the gates, you enter King's Gondor. Harlond, of course, looks better, looks more repaired, and if you open your map, you'll see that we have a brand new map. Zoom out a little bit, we can see the entirety of King's Gondor. This is Gondor after Aragorn becomes king. Currently, we only get the eastern parts of Gondor, probably the western parts in a future update. But for now, we're getting the east part of King's Gondor. Those are your new zones with this update, and a brand new quest, brand new areas to explore. Obviously, it will look pretty similar to the previous Gondor zones that we've had, but there's going to be some differences. And of course, we have new updated maps. King's Gondor currently includes Losarnak, as you can see. One of the differences here that I noticed is all the white trees at the bottom, and there should be new places we can go that we couldn't previously. If we move further west, we have Upper Lebanon of King's Gondor. Further west, we have Pelargir, of course. And we have one more zone to the west of Pelargir, Lower Lebanon. Lynn here is the last town we can go to because the gates here will be closed. So you cannot enter the western King's Gondor yet. But this is the last zone of King's Gondor currently. And this road here leads pretty far up. There might be some new stuff up there to explore. But this is your new update, King's Gondor. Update 36, new landscape and quests. With this update, we also finally get the landscape difficulty, the Pass of Valor. This difficulty finally comes to the live servers, and they've also reworked the landscape difficulty setting system that came with Treebeard, and they're now opening it to general game worlds as an option. There's more details to follow later in this video, but we have a new faction and new rewards available by playing higher difficulties. You can activate your difficulty and adjust it in the future by speaking with the Hardened Traveler, which can be found in major hubs and new player zones throughout Middle-earth. One example is outside the Prancing Pony. You can see the Hardened Traveler is standing here, where you can change your difficulty. Other places where you can find the Hardened Traveler is near the Stable Masters outside of the 21st Hall, just inside the exit of Post-Raid Archet, just outside of Mossward, along the road northward out of Kellendim, just outside the door to Thorin's Hall, and down the road from the Hobbit starter area exit waypoint. There are also titles available for activating a difficulty of 3 or higher, so tier 3 difficulty or higher, and keeping it there from level 10 to level 50, and then to level 130. The title granted depends on the class you play, but can be used by any character on your account. So as soon as you get the title, you can use it on any character on your account, so the titles are account-wide. Make sure to select your landscape difficulty prior to achieving level 10. In order to earn these titles, you must keep the difficulty system active for the entire leveling span from level 10 through 50 or 130. Entering areas of the game world where it is temporarily suppressed will not invalidate your title attempt, however turning it down or off via the Hardened Traveler will. So basically, when you select your difficulty, you need to keep that difficulty all the way to level 50 or 130 in order to get your special titles. Also, with this update, we're getting more delvings to classic instances, the Great Barrow cluster, the Maze Thadur Samburg, and also the Anuminas cluster. Ghynghyn, Houd Valendale, and Os Elendale are now playable as delvings. We can open up Ghynghyn just to see that this is a fact, and as we see, the delving stone is inside Ghynghyn. You can now play Anuminas and Great Barrow 6-mans on delving difficulties. Several player stun removal skills were inappropriately flagged as immediate, causing them to occasionally cancel themselves and fail to free you from stuns. These skills are now correctly fast rather than immediate skills. So basically, your stun breakout skills on some classes, like Cry of the Hunter for Hunter, were actually tagged as immediate. That was an error. So you could accidentally cancel the skill and not get free from a root or a stun. This has now been fixed. High Elf, Beorning, and Stout Axe Dwarf racial recall skills can now be used while mounted on any steed. For the Beorning class, Beorning trait, Battleborn second set bonus in Redline now correctly gives the additional critical damage for offhand weapons. For the Brawler class, the Brawler mounted combat skill Take a Breath will now properly update the incoming healing rating when active. We have a change to a Brawler trait, the first set bonus in Redline, Innate Strength Raw Power. The description of this trait has been fixed to say that each tier gives 2.5%, so 2.5, 5, 7.5 and 10% damage. There was no change to the actual bonus, just a tooltip change to reflect real values. The tracery for innate strength, damage and threat also sees a change. Instead of 10% on the damage bonus, it is now 5%, but this damage is now added directly into the value of innate strength raw power buff, which makes it considerably more effective than it was previously. So basically, this tracery will now increase this buff to, instead of 10% damage, making it 15.5% damage with the gold tracery. So this tracery is now probably a must pick for Red Brawler, where previously it wasn't. We have an absolutely insane buff for the Burglar. If I use my throw knife skill on this bat, you can see a normal hit, it hits for about 20k. But with this change, guys, look at this. You can now use aim. You can use aim and throw knife. Look at this. Double the damage and get a guaranteed crit on throw knife. Absolutely massive buff for Burglar. For the Captain class, Withdraw will correctly free yourself from a root when you use it. The class deed Fear No Darkness, which is about using words of courage, should now properly advance even if you have Courageous Convocation traded at the bottom of blue line. The Captain skill Defensive Strike is now properly affected by the tracery single target attack damage. The buff from Inspire Self-Determination should now correctly overwrite the previous buff rather than failing to apply while you still have a few seconds of duration remaining from your previous skill use. For the Champion class, we have the first breakout skill that has been changed from immediate to fast. Blood Rage or Continuous Blood Rage is now fast rather than immediate. We have a change to a Champion Tracery. The Tracery Swift Strike damage and power cost has been renamed to Swift Strike / Blade damage and power restore. So the Tracery now increases the power restored by Swift Strike rather than reducing the now non-existent power cost. Magnitude has been changed from 33% to 20%. So having this tracery will now increase Swift Blade damage and also increase the power restored from using Swift Blade. For Guardian, the Cardolan Essence of Retaliation that caused your target to lose physical mit, but also yourself to lose phys mit, but gain 10% melee damage, will no longer benefit from the War Chant Duration Legacy. So it sounds to me that the War Chant Duration Legacy tracery was making this last longer than it should have. This has now been fixed. Another class who got the immediate to fast treatment is the Lore Master. Clever Escape used to be immediate, but is now a fast skill. We have a change to the Rune-Keeper DNF. No longer will you break classes out of stealth while applying DNF to them. We have a quality of life change for Warden. Forced March will now stay toggled in combat. So if I enter combat with this bat, you can see that Forced March is active. Of course, you're not going to get the run speed buff while you're in combat, but as soon as you exit the combat, your Forced March is active once again. Really nice change for Warden. Seared Flesh, which is the effect that happens when you cash out Cauterizing Steel on your Power Attack, Mighty Blow, or Unerring Strike damage over time effects. You get the Seared Flesh, and Seared Flesh now appropriately benefits from bonuses to your fire damage. So I'm guessing this means that, for example, Raven Fire Mit debuff from LM will also buff your Seared Flesh attacks as well. And any other fire damaging debuff or buff will also affect the Seared Flesh effect. Wardens also get a change to their Readied Blade skill. This skill now will have you immune to disarms for the whole duration of the buff. So when you use Readied Blade on the target, you will then have the buff for 1 minute 21 seconds in blue line, where you're immune to disarms. The trait in yellow line for Warden, Movement Training, will now correctly increase mitigation ratings from the Conviction and Dance of War buffs. So this trait used to be bugged, where it wouldn't increase the ratings. So this 98k attack mit rating should increase. And with this increase, it now goes up to 108k attack mit. I am not sure if it's worth using your points to get this little of an increase, but at least this trait now actually is working. The fourth set bonus in Redline, Taking Advantage. The damage has been increased. Whenever enemies block, parry, or evade your attacks, you have a chance of quickly following up from another angle, dealing X amount of damage. So this damage value has been increased, so it actually matters somewhat. We have some crafting news. The crafting ingredients, Tuft of Torahala's Fur, the Great Hoary Auroch's Hide, and Speckled Shell Fragment can now all be stored in crafting carryalls. Beasts that you find in the Items&Rewards that drop crafting hides will now correctly drop Gundabad hides instead of Erlinga's hides. So if you're killing beasts in the Items&Rewards that drop hides, you will now get the highest tier of hides, Gundabad hides. We can finally craft 2 new tiers of craftable essence boxes. If you're on a crafter and you open your Gundabad and you open essences, you can see that we can now finally not only craft flickering crafted essence boxes, but also Delvers essences and lively essences. So 2 new tiers of essence boxes craftable from crafters. You can either use normal ingredients like shards, solvents, and crafting materials, or you can use malleable Gundabad essences if you have those stored up. The Gundabad Skarn deposits have been renamed to Brilliant Skarn deposits, and the Frostrime Black Ash branches have been renamed to Heavy Wind Swept Black Ash branches. We have some items and rewards changes. The Homestead Steed can now be correctly placed on a hitching post by Hobbit, Dwarf, and Stout Axe Dwarf characters. Might-based selection boxes no longer reference or contain medium armor. And on that same note, many medium might-based armor pieces obtained from quests from level 1 through 75 have been updated from medium to heavy armor. Enemies in Moria no longer drop obsolete legendary item rewards. The distillation set housing item now properly identifies itself as a distillation set and not a crock pot. I guess this item was bugged and has now been fixed. The incomparable earrings from 3-mans in Cardoom have had their names of their set bonuses changed to reflect the stats given by the items in their group. So I guess they're referring to the name, the Agile Earrings of the Fated Pair, because it's giving fate. Pretty sure all of these set bonuses give fate now, so they're all named Fated Pair. That's like the only difference I can see, so I'm guessing that's the change they're talking about here. The Dwarf Make Helm cosmetic has been renamed to Dwarf Make Circlet. I guess it was named the helm, but it looked like a circlet, so this name change makes a total sense. The Champion Legendary Item Tracery Brutal Strikes Damage could be found in 2 different places in the archives, but will now only appear in the Berserker Barter profiles. The decorative band on the Sightseer straw hat will now correctly display dye colors. We can just go ahead and look. Let's try to dye this black. You can see the band is changing depending on the color that you want. The weapon Candleless Hammer is now categorized correctly in the auction house. The Veteran of Helm's Deep Quartermaster now offers items for Beornings and Brawlers as well. The Homestead Steed can now be used in Sirac Sigil as well in Karis Galathon and other appropriate areas in Lothlorien. The landscape difficulty has been reworked and is finally coming to the general live game worlds. We've added a new faction and reward structure called the Paths of Valor that can be advanced by playing on higher difficulties. So as we can see from the Hardened Traveler, he is part of the Paths of Valor faction. You can activate your difficulty setting by speaking with the Hardened Traveler that can be found in major hubs and new player zones, who will offer you an array of quests representing the different difficulty levels. We click on the Hardened Traveler to see all the different difficulties, difficulty 1 all the way through difficulty 9. Upon accepting or completing one of these quests, your challenges on the roads of Middle-earth will increase substantially. So if you were to hit 3 and then accept, your difficulty and challenges in landscape will be a lot harder. The difficulty system turns itself off in group instances in the Items&Rewards and anytime the delving system is activated. It will reactivate when you leave any of these areas. So if you're doing normal instances, if you're going to the moors for PvMP, or if you're doing any kind of delving, this system will deactivate and you'll play as normal. There are titles available for activating at difficulty of 3 or higher and keeping it there from level 10 to level 50 and then to level 130. The title granted depends on the class you play through with, but can be used on any character on your account. So on the screen right now, you can see an overview of the titles that you can get. As you can see, there's two different types of deed. It's picking Adventurous and higher, or picking Fearless and higher. So Adventurous, as you can see, is tier 1. If you do tier 1 or tier 2 difficulty, you will get those first titles. So these titles is for tier 1 and tier 2, and these titles for tier 1 and tier 2. You then choose to go tier 3 or higher. You can then achieve, I'm assuming you get these initial titles, but you can also get these titles as well for level 50 and level 130. So me as a Guardian, Ghyndian, I could get Ghyndian Apprentice of Shields, Ghyndian Disciple of Shields, Ghyndian Adept of Shields, Ghyndian Master of Shields, and these titles also become account-wide once you get them. You need to play on the set classes to get set titles, but once you get the titles, you can use them on any of your toons. So just like I said, to earn these titles, you need to turn on the difficulty system before you reach level 11. This is very important. Before we reach level 11, you have to turn this on, and you have to leave the difficulty on until you reach level 50 or 130, depending on the titles you're going after. Going into instances, PvMP, doing delvings will not reset your progress. You'll be perfectly fine. You just need to keep the difficulty until you reach those levels. And like I said, existing characters above level 10 will not be able to earn the titles themselves, but will be able to use those titles if they're earned by another character on your account. So if you earn those titles on any character, they become account-wide. A new item called Tokens of Heroism is being introduced with this update, and if you're playing on difficulty 3 or higher, so Fearless or higher, enemies in landscape can drop these tokens for you. These tokens can be turned in to complete weekly tasks from the Hardened Traveler. Let's look at his weekly task. 10 tokens will give you 3 heroes marks and also increase reputation with the faction. And another thing to take note of, if you're playing difficulty 3, 4, 5, or 6, so any of the Fearless difficulties, the tokens can drop for up to 3 members in a fellowship. So you can play in a 3-man group if you're doing Fearless, and if you're doing Heroic or higher, you can now group as a full fellowship, and you can all have a chance of tokens dropping for you. So tier 3, 4, 5, 6, you can play as a 3-man group and get token drops, and tier 7, 8, 9, you can play as a 6-man group and still get token drops. The drop rate of these tokens somewhat increases with higher difficulties, so you'll have more of a chance of tokens on difficulty 9 than you will have on difficulty 3. The difficulty settings and effects are pretty much the same as they were on Treebird, but with some minor changes to the names and some of the effects. The Hardened Traveler has a menu of butter items. We can take a look at this right now. And if we're looking at the rewards we can get, we need heroes marks to trade for these rewards. And for 5 marks, you can then get a Pass of Valor token, which will increase your reputation with the faction. For 4 marks, you can get morale potions, or you can get power potions. For 3 marks, you can get an elixir of heroism, which will double the drop rate for tokens of heroism, giving you a higher chance for 1 hour duration to get more token drops from your enemies. And we also have 8 new epic emotes that you can get. Some of these cost 90, some cost 60, some cost 45, and some cost 30. So a different cost of these emotes, but there are 8 new emotes that you can get. And of course, we're going to take a look at them. We have the Epic Shiver. See a little snowy effect on the Shiver. We have the Epic Succumb. Get sort of a purple shadowy effect on you. Epic Resist. Epic Salute. Epic Lecture. Although I still don't understand what's so epic about this lecture. We have the Epic Roar emote, Epic Coin Flip, and the Epic Hero Pose. We have a few general landscape changes. Court of Celeborn now has a map. Floating objects in the Allegiance halls and in Mordor have been grounded, and incorrect textures in Minas Tirith has been resolved. Localization note: Stablemaster map text has been updated for the German game client. We have some missions and delving news. Delving and barter vendors and mission givers have also been added to all our skirmish camp. So if we go to the skirmish camp, we can now see the delving quartermaster as well as delving mission givers. The reason for this is to make it easier for you to turn in quests regardless of where you are in the world. So all skirmish camps will have delving quartermaster and delving mission givers. A selectable delving extraordinary box that only drops in instances at tier 7+. While it's still rare, new instances have a significantly higher drop rate for this item. This item can only drop in instances at tier 7+ for delvings. We had some fixes to the mission Jordkin and the Hounds. The mission now appropriately identifies that you need to kill 8 wargs along with 8 Jordkin to advance the quest. Previously this quest just said you need to kill 8 Jordkin and you were not able to advance the quest, meaning you still had to kill 8 wargs even though the quest didn't say that. This has now been fixed, and the mission had some pesky low level monsters that really wanted to get in on the fight. They have been reprimanded to stay in their lanes. They fixed an issue with the mission Dangerous Deliveries, where the player would pick the pie up twice upon completing the induction to pick up the pie. The bridge in the mission Patrol the Township that was bereft of physics has found its physics and will now support your character as it should. Before, the shadow missions that referred to previous mission givers have been updated with references to current mission givers. So people might remember how the missions used to be spread all over the place, but now of course we know that the missions are in Andreth, in Herne, and in Clegor. Some of the missions were referring to the old locations, and this has now been fixed. The mission The Netting Glade had a single cocoon that decided it didn't want to sparkle. The spider responsible has been admonished, and though it pledged to swallow all light in the world, it relented and allowed its cocoon to sparkle once again. So the one cocoon that wasn't sparkling is now sparkling in the mission The Netting Glade. The selectable delving box of crafting materials that you get at tier 7 and above can now be disenchanted for 20 delving writs if you don't want the crafting materials inside. These new icon delving boxes have a 6-hour duration for you to decide what you want to do with them. We also have a change to how many writs you get from completing delvings. Delvings tier 1 to 3 give 10 writs, 4, 5, 6 give 20, 7, 8, 9 give 30, and 10, 11, and 12 give 40 writs. 2 new cosmetic pets have been added to the delving barter. I'm not exactly sure which ones of these are new. I'm gonna assume it's the most expensive ones. So the brick corgi and the spiky avank should be the new cosmetic pets. But just in case, we're gonna look at the dusky netherhound and the slate aurochs. But I'm pretty sure the brick corgi and spiky avank are the new pets. Delving armor will now be disenchantable for more delving writs. Common armor, which is the yellow armor, will disenchant for 10 writs, purple armor for 20 writs, and the teal armor for 30 writs. New essence boxes added to the barter as well. Delving flickering essence box for 100 writs, and the Delver's essence box for 500 writs, and the yellow essence has been removed from the barter. Universal delving morale potions, which are pretty good, heals 15% max morale, and also universal delving power potions are also really good, 15% of max power. So some nice morale potions available for writs, 250 writs each, and they can also drop as rewards from high tier instance delving chests. Delving mission givers in the skirmish camps around the world will also give the weekly delving quests, just like your typical delving mission givers in a normal delving camp. So any skirmish camp will also give out the weeklies for the delving quests. A visual bug was fixed in the mission Defilers in the Dale. Rewards dropping from Delvings have been updated with new looks, so new icons to most of the Delving drop rewards. We also have some PvMP updates and news. To explain this really simply, you used to get way too much value than you should have if you were killing stuff in a raid, so these values have been adjusted. And there's also going to be a change to the value of killing people of different ranks. Obviously, if you kill a person of higher rank, you're going to earn more rewards. And if you kill someone who's a really low rank, you're not going to earn that much. The War Spoils carry-all icons have been updated and no longer display a bottle of liquid. An issue with the first and second martial rewards not providing keys to the chest has been fixed. Tokens of Valor will now go into the War Spoils carry-alls. All values and costs for Lynedal's insignias were reduced. You can now purchase the old versions for nostalgia, but the tier 15 version is available to all rank 1 players and better for 2000 commendations. The rank 9 mount available in the monster play now has a full 68% movement bonus because it should have been upgraded along with all other mounts that are this hard to get. Old update 21 gear was using old audacity values. This has been reduced to 1. Creepside Items&Rewards quests now reward considerably more item XP when completed. The Creepside weekly quest, Battle Across the Items&Rewards, now gives slightly improved rewards. New potions of bravery and essence, so the new power and morale potions, are now correctly usable by free players. Insignias now have a 3-minute cooldown and provide 15 seconds of combat state immunity. Tyrant brands still have a 1-minute cooldown and only provide 5 seconds of immunity for now. And of course you can get the new morale and power pots from Alwild, the item trader in the moors. The power pots potions of essence restore different amounts of power according to their quality and rank requirement. Loot boxes found by monster players, so if you're playing a creep on the creep side, and if you get loot boxes, these loot boxes now always drop 3 items, so every loot box you open will give you 3 items from 3 specific tables. The first table includes either potions, barter lockboxes, and the potential for 500 commendations, with weighting towards the barter box and then equivalent draws for the remaining items. Table 2 includes an equal chance for random perk items from a pool of 5 items, and the third table has an equal chance to drop a single Audacity upgrade scroll, 2 Audacity upgrade scrolls, Lord's Symbols, Captain's Marks, 1000 commendation, 1,500 commendations, or a new cosmetic selection box. The cosmetic selection box contains 2 new skins for each class. Previews are available on NPCs present near the Gramsfoot Retreat Circle. Selection box also contains several new cosmetic weapons, Drang Sword, a Silvered Scimitar, a Spider Clan Trident and Offhand Gundabad Mace, a Spider Clan Staff, an Easterling Ghost Bow, and a new Dunharrow Shield. The box also contains a new cosmetic type that can be slotted into Appearance Corruptions to change the style of your March skill emitted effects. These include a white glow, a fire trail, acid trail, and a blue foot trail. And I logged over to Creepside just to get a good look on some of the new skins. So I believe these are some of the new skins that you can get. Actually look pretty cool. I like that monster players are getting more skins. Go over here, we can see some spider skins. Pretty cool looking. Warg skins. Some Defiler skins, I believe. And Reaver. So quite a few new skins. I think that's it from what I could see. The eggs around Grodris in the Isendeep mine, so way up north where Grodris' lair is found, will now hatch if they are disturbed during the battle against the Matron. The monster play tutorial now references using skills on training dummies that don't lock you into combat for 5 minutes. Some of these training dummies will lock you in combat, but some will not. Like the Jalessa, Kelson, or Orion training dummies over here will not lock you in combat. so new players can try out their new skills on these dummies. First, Marshal Anne and Tyrant Usulthrang are back in action and ready to rush Tol Asgarnan when the opposition is in control. The rewards on quests to use these two is increased significantly. Each has also been buffed appropriately, so when you're attacking TA, the middle keep in the middle of Etenmoors, your Tyrant or your Marshal will join you in rushing to take this keep, and you also get more rewards from the quests concerning these two NPCs. Damage dealt by the Spider Hatchling has been adjusted to be more in line with creatures that are level 140. There was a bug introduced when they lowered the cost of monster play potions, where they did not lower the amount purchasable from the barter NPC. This has been corrected and you can now only purchase in stacks of 3. Mazauk and Old Goldhead have been refreshed and stand ready to help you capture Lugasag or Tirith Raw. So you will get help from those NPCs while you're trying to capture these keeps. Many monster player skill power costs have been adjusted. In particular, several healing skills cost substantially more power. The base critical heal multiplier for most creepside heals have been reduced from 1.5 to 1.2. I just made a brand new defiler, so bear with me if some of the stuff is not accurate. But the cooldowns reduced for Fertile Slime and Fungal Spores. I'm pretty sure Fungal Bloom might have a way to change to Fungal Spores, but the cooldowns on these skills have been reduced. Fungal Spores' initial heal potency has been reduced, and Enhanced Fungal Spores now rolls for a critical heal on each pulls, rather than following the critical outcome of the initial skill use. So it seems like previously if your first skill would crit, then the rest of the hots would also crit, but now each individual hot will roll for a crit. Fertile Slime no longer has an initial heal. Healing from Improved Blessing of Darkness now occurs every 1 second rather than every 2 seconds. Constant Pain now pulses healing every 2 seconds and will restore some power to the Defiler when it does. For Orc Reaver, Blade Toss now only applies its slow or knockdown effects to targets facing away from you. For the Spider Weaver class, several spider animations should no longer slow down when you gain attack speed buffs, and Trapdoor Sanctuary now lasts for 10 seconds. When traded, it'll heal 5% of your max health every second. Some quests, deeds, and instances news. Tier 4 of Gwathrenos, the Witch King's Citadel, is now available. And big congratulations to Odyssey for world first completion of Tier 4. Can't wait to see Tier 5, it's going to be really interesting. All Slayer deeds in the Wells of Langflood now properly reward the players with LOTRO points. The Gwathrenos locks now function similarly to the Hidden Horde locks, where your locks will be saved depending on the bosses that you kill. If you clear the whole raid, you should be able to select which boss you want to approach and fight against. We had a couple of fixes to some Azanul Bizarre quests, some updates to their quest guides to make them more accurate. On Boss 1 in Sagroth, where you get the Sewer Water debuff on the players, this debuff used to be a corruption, which you could never remove. It is now correctly a disease, and you can now remove this debuff from yourself or others. Some music bugs have been fixed. And some miscellaneous news. The Allegiance panel can now be resized an additional horizontal distance. A lot more customization with the Allegiance panel. Certain Brawler belt buckles were appearing under Loremaster class in searches in the auction house. Upgraded the compiler used to compile the 32-bit game client to make it compatible with upgraded OpenAL. I don't know what that means, but this happened. Clydesdale mounts can now be used in Thorin's Hall and the Hall Under the Mountain. The assistant stable master in Rivendell stables no longer constantly douses his horse with water, but it now seems like he's doing it like once every minute or so. Still don't like how he's like threatening this horse. Look at him. Like, oh, here it comes, here it comes. Ah, I don't like this. Oh! Stop doing this. Why are they doing this to this poor horse? Look at him. Still too often, I think. Justice for the Rivendell horse. Face paint rewards acquired from Hobnanigans now correctly shows on human avatars. The Draught horse cosmetic pets received in the homesteads and harvest coffers have been renamed to miniature Draught horses. Matching full-size Draught horses cosmetic pet tomes have been granted account-wide to everyone that purchased the homesteads and harvest coffers. The homestead steed mount scale has been increased to match the expected size of a Draught horse. Many animation issues have been resolved for the homestead mount as well. Updated the icon for the Storwells/Clegor milestone and for the Clegor travel skills. Several run speed buffs and debuffs were overriding effects of greater potency. Player applied run speed effects should now only override effects of the same kind, so out of combat speed or in combat speed or debuff, and the most potent effect should always be the one which is actively applied. Basically what this means, if you're in a group with a captain that uses make haste and you pop a charge, you should run faster than the make haste because your charge is 61%, which is way higher than make haste. So the fastest run speed buff should always be the one applied to the player. So a really good quality of life change here, making run speed buffs consistent, where you always get the benefit of the highest run speed buff. And finally, we have some known issues. In French and German, the tokens of heroism may display as tokens of valor. The stable master panel in collections has not been updated to include King's Gondor, and the deeds Boar Slayer of Lower Lebanon and Boar Slayer of Lower Lebanon Advanced are not bestowing advancing properly. And finally, a big shout out to Christian Becker, who supported me through my Ko-fi website. Hey you! Yeah, you! What do you want? You enjoy my content and you want to support me? Fine, I'll show you how you can do it. I would really appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. You can also support me through my Ko-fi homepage. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghyniverse is a Discord server created for the community of the players of Lord of the Rings Online. The server is getting close to 7,000 members, and in this server you'll find tons of helpful information. There's monthly giveaways, easy access to patch notes, you can keep up with my YouTube videos, my streams. If you're a streamer, you can ask for the streamer role and you can announce your streams in the other stream channel. There are discussion channels for pretty much everything, every class, monster players. But the best thing about this server is probably the Gearing Resources tab, where you can find anything from trait lines for every class, every build. There are stat goals, where you can find out what stats you should aim for on your characters. Really helpful information about drop rates from instances, as well as screenshot from all the new loot that appears in the game. If you enjoy LOTRO, you should definitely consider joining this server, and hopefully I'll see you in Middle-earth. If you were part of the Ghyniverse already, you might have noticed that another tab appeared at the top, the LFF server. This server is a brand new server that I created, the LFF Ghyniverse. In this server, you can select which servers you want to keep up with, and once you select your server, say you select Arkenstone, you will see the LFF, the kinship advertisement, looking for kinship and trade channels, and there's also voice channels if people want to use those. The LFF channel is basically a looking for fellowship channel where people can post if they need players for the runs, and this way people don't have to be logged into the game to see the chat, they can just instead get a notification on their Discord. There's also a kinship advertisement page where kins can post their kinship advertisement and have people join their kins, and you can also post in the looking for kinship chat if you're looking for a kinship, but make sure to take a look in the kinship advertisement first and look through all the kin to find a suitable kin for you. There's also a trade channel if people want to buy or sell stuff that you can use. Hopefully you'll consider joining this server to bring the community even more together, not just in the game, but also outside of the game.